What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Ask Sir Love. And it's your boy, Sir Love, doing another dope episode. And this time we're going to take a question from Yol Young. Yol says, hey, man, I wanted to know if I could sign to labels as two different artists, meaning I rap and I also want to do pop songs. So can I sign to two different or the same label as two different artists and two different contracts, or is it absurd and impossible legally? That's interesting. Um, it's probably going to be pretty impossible. And the reason I say that is because most legally binding agreements are going to be binding in such a way where they're going to control just about everything that you do. Um, could there be loopholes? Could there be possibilities? I mean, maybe you could be signed in a group, and the contract could have omitted individual signees in the group. So you're signed to the group one way, but you're signed as an individual another way. But sometimes the contracts, many times when you sign a contract as a group, you also end up signing an individual contract as well. So that may not be the case. It all really depends on the details of the agreement that you've signed. Typically, a label is going to want to control your assets no matter what you do, whether you rap, whether you sing, whether if you do anything musically, they're going to want to be a part of it because they're going to feel like they contributed. Now, there may be a scenario where no, no. I mean, most of the contracts that I've seen, they're going to lock you down, bro. And the better question is, why would you want to sign to two different labels to have two different energies? I think a better thing to talk about is the conflict that would create. If you're signed to one label as a pop artist and you're signed to another label as a rap artist, both labels are going to have commitments to you and they're going to be asking you to do things. And so what if the rap label needs you to be at an event, a promo event on such and such a date, and then the other label wants you to be doing something else at the same date? What if they got you locked in with these set of producers over here, and then they want you to lock in with another set of producers over there? Work being committed to two different labels at the same time would create a variety of different conflicts, which would probably make both parties, from a label perspective, just kind of get tired of you and push you to the side. If you were indeed signed to two labels, I could probably see it more so on a major versus independent versus two majors, or maybe even two independents. If you're doing it from a major to an independent perspective, if you're signed to a major and you're signed to an independent, the major is most likely going to come and buy out the independent contract because they're not going to want any type of conflicts when it comes to releasing your project. And when they buy out that contract, they're going to take it out of your budget. So you will owe whatever that buyout was. So if you signed to an independent and they gave you a $100,000 advance, and then you signed to a major and they gave you $200,000 advance, that $100,000 that they pay back to the independent to get you off the deal will be something that you have to pay back yourself. So you'll basically effectively pay to get yourself out the old deal. If you're doing it with two indie labels, depending on how progressive and mature those labels are, it'll likely either be the same thing or maybe they might not have the tools to recognize that you're in two places at the same time. Eventually, it will bubble up. Eventually, you will find it. And the only way that I can see that you skating with it for a long time is A, being in a group and the contract has no oversight on that, or having two completely different brands as two completely different artists, two completely different names, using completely different addresses, two different accounts, different everything. But eventually, someone's going to catch up. I guess if you're on label one, you're wearing a mask and no one knows what you look like, and you can be real extra, but eventually, someone's going to find out. It's going to be a conflict of interest, and both of the labels are going to be trying to figure out who did the work that created the revenue, at which point they're going to be suing one another, and it's going to eventually backfire on you. So I do not see a scenario in which you can be signed to two different labels at the exact same time in your prime as an artist. You may also see a scenario where, later in age, you could still have an outstanding contract with one label and then sign to another label, and those two labels can do an agreement where, hey, a certain amount of your funds will still go back to label A while label B is putting new investment in you. You see those types of things. But when I say signed, and when I'm thinking signed in this agreement, I'm thinking that you have a commitment to the company. They own your name, they own your likeness, they own all these things. Or you have an agreement where you're licensing those things to them, and they're not going to want you to have any type of non-exclusive agreement anywhere else. Now, you can be signed to two different companies when it comes to assets. Your publishing can be here, your masters can be there, your merchandise can be here. You know, all the various different assets. You can have publishing with 4 or 5 different companies. You can have some of your publishing with company A, some of your publishing with company B, some of your publishing with company C, right? So when you take it out of the space of the record label, yes, this is completely doable. It happens all the time, right? That way you can, Prince was known for this. And I wrote about this in the publishing book, Prince would take his catalog and break it up into multiple different companies. So he would open multiple publishing companies and take his catalog and put different portions of his catalog in different companies, and then sell different portions, sell those companies, or not sell, but license or do co-pub deals typically, or admin deals with all these other companies against these many publishing companies that he created. So that way no one company would have control over his catalog. It was split across multiple companies, but he himself didn't want to, I guess, do the labor required to shop his records and create publishing opportunities. So he did those co-pub deals with other companies to create those opportunities. So publishing happens all the time. From an artist perspective, it's going to be very hard to do so because the label is going to be in conflict because everyone wants the masters. That's just how it is. And if your likeness is being marketed by one label and you're using the exact same likeness at another label, label A is going to argue that they don't have the right to use your likeness, right? Because they're going to want it either exclusive or they're going to want to own it. So if you can get a non-exclusive agreement on your name, non-exclusive license on your name, and you're doing the deal, then yeah, it can happen. Another thought that I want to say, because I mentioned this before in another video, but you can, what I have seen scenarios where labels have done deals where they've done them regionally, right? And in this instance, it could work as well. And I probably didn't think about this at the beginning, but you can do this regionally. So a label can sign you and only have you signed in the United States, right? And then another label can sign you and have you over, Europe or Asia or whatever area. In your agreement, it will stipulate where your contract is bound or what areas or regions your contract is bound by. Typically, labels will say that you are bound globally or universally or something like that. But you could have an agreement that says, nationally across the United States of America, across these particular countries, across whatever, and then do an agreement with another company and have them owning the masters and things that you release in that area, or co-ownership, or however you negotiate the deal in that particular area. And in that instance, you could be wrapped with one contract and pop with the other. But typically, if you're coming up for the first time, those are not the types of deals that you're going to see. If you're with a smaller company, they'll be more likely to award you that. But in today's time, when we are definitely in a global music economy and music is playing, it's before you can decide where we're going to ship the albums. All right, I'm shipping albums to Europe, but we're shipping all albums to the United States. Now you're throwing it on a streaming platform. It's going to be hard to regulate, what money goes where and what companies collecting from what place and things of that nature. So I would guess that deals like that are far in between now. I do know of artists that had deals like that where they kind of had regional country-based deals, but this was early 2000s, and we were still pirating music and using iTunes. And so streaming was big in Europe and definitely in Sweden, but it hadn't caught on to the United States market yet. So I doubt that's still a thing. But that's the information that I have. Maybe an attorney can tell you different. The way that I see it is it's possible, but very, very unlikely. That is the short answer to everything that I said, all right? So Yo Young, I hope that was beneficial. The name is Sir Love. I don't know everything, but I know a lot about a little bit about a lot. I'm always trying to give you guys everything that I got right here on Phase 6. Like, subscribe, go to the website, check me out, rock with me. I'm out.